Commander Sophia Chin gazed through the viewport as her diplomatic vessel, the UES Harmony, approached the crystalline megastructure that served as the consortium's central hub. Vast translucent spires stretched for thousands of kilometers, glittering with internal light that pulsed in patterns she couldn't quite follow. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Elliot Barnes, the xenolinguistics specialist who'd spent the last 3 years developing what they hoped was a universal translation matrix. "I left everything behind for this moment," Sophia replied, straightening her dress uniform. The wedding band she still wore despite the divorce felt suddenly heavy. "Marcus won't forgive me for missing his graduation. I promised Sarah I'd be there when she needed me through chemo. This has to be worth it." The Harmony docked with a gentle shudder. As the delegation prepared to disembark, their attaché Axel Torith, a slender being with iridescent skin and overlarge eyes, approached. "The eldest minds await," they said, their translator producing flawlessly enunciated English. "I must warn you again. Speak as little as possible." Sophia frowned. "We're here to establish diplomatic relations." "How?" "Thoughts only," Sel Torith interrupted. "Sound is primitive to them." The diplomatic chamber was a perfect sphere, its walls shifting with colors that seemed to respond to the occupants. 7 beings of different species floated in null-gravity chairs. None possessed anything resembling a mouth. "Welcome, Earth delegation," came the thought directly into their minds. "We observe your world with interest." Elliot's translation matrix activated, projecting their prepared greeting through small devices designed to convert speech to telepathic wavelengths. Sophia stepped forward. "The United Earth Federation extends its hand in friendship to thee." The reaction was immediate and visceral. The assembled representatives physically recoiled, their bodies contorting in what appeared to be discomfort. The largest being, a crystalline entity that Sel Torith had identified as the Kumiri representative, flashed brilliant red. "Cease your vibrations." The thought came forcefully enough to cause pain. Primitive. So primitive. Sophia looked to Elliot in confusion. His face had gone pale as he frantically adjusted the matrix. "I don't understand," Sophia said. "The matrix should be converting our speech to." "We hear your thoughts adequately," interrupted another being, its skin rippling. "It is the barbaric method you use to communicate among yourselves that offends. You vibrate air molecules to transmit information, like animals calling in a forest." Sophia felt heat rise to her face. 3 years of preparation, a career staked on this moment, and they were being dismissed because humans spoke to each other. The Kumiri representative drifted forward, its crystalline structure catching light in hypnotic patterns. The consortium of telepathic species maintains galactic harmony through thought-pure communication. Species who rely on crude physical vibrations remain in developmental infancy. "Our crude vibrations built civilizations," Sophia protested, abandoning protocol. "We've developed art, science, poetry, and remain confined to a single star system," came the dismissive response. "The consortium's judgment is clear. Earth will be classified as a Tier 3 developing world. You may observe consortium activities but not participate in governance. A monitoring outpost will be established in your system to supervise your progress." The transmission to Earth headquarters cut off abruptly. The delegation was escorted back to their ship in humiliating silence. Hours later, Sophia sat alone in her quarters, the mission's failure crushing her. The sacrifices, the promises broken, all for nothing. In a burst of frustration, she slammed her fist against the wall, accidentally activating her personal entertainment system. The opening riff of Iron Maiden's "The Trooper" suddenly filled the room, an ancient song from her father's collection that had gotten her through the academy. She moved to shut it off when the door slid open. Sel Torith stood there, pupils dramatically dilated, their iridescent skin pulsing with the rhythm of the music. Their normally controlled posture had given way to subtle swaying. What is this sensation?" they asked, moving toward the speaker with trembling appendages. These vibrations, they create patterns in my mind I've never experienced. Sophia stared, a slow realization dawning. It's just music. Heavy metal. Specifically. Metal. Sel Torith repeated, placing a six-fingered hand directly on the speaker. The eldest would never allow such powerful vibrations. They fear what they cannot control. As the guitar solo kicked in, Sophia saw something that changed everything. A thin crystalline filament protruding from Sel Torith's wrist was resonating in perfect harmony with the music. Dr. Mai Zhang's laboratory at MIT's Sonic Engineering Complex was soundproof to withstand frequencies that could shatter concrete. Today, it wasn't enough. Campus security had already called twice about complaints from buildings 3 blocks away. She bent over her custom 9-string guitar, its body modified with quantum resonance pickups she designed herself. As lead guitarist for underground metal band Neutron Scream, she'd explored sonic extremes for fun. As Earth's foremost expert in wave harmonics, she did it to push scientific boundaries. Diagnostics show 3 broken strings. Doctor, her AI assistant EQYNOX reported, and you've exceeded safe decibel levels for the 3rd time today. They called us primitive, EQ. May yanked off her protective headphones. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy dismissed 4,000 years of human music as vibrating air molecules. She tossed her guitar aside in frustration, not noticing as the broken strings continued vibrating in an unusual pattern. Mozart, Hendrix, Yo-Yo Ma, all just meaningless noise to them because they evolved without speaking. Her computer chimed with an incoming transmission from Admiral Kessler. The security footage from Commander Chen's quarters appeared, showing the alien Sel Torith's strange reaction to music. "Have you seen this?" Kessler demanded. May leaned forward, studying the alien's response to Iron Maiden. The crystalline filaments visible at its wrists pulsed with the rhythm. "Send me all the data you have on the consortium species, physical structure, communication methods, everything." 3 days later, Mai stood outside the emergency United Earth Federation Council meeting, her battered guitar case in hand. Security tried to block her. "Civilians aren't permitted. I'm Dr. Zhang, head of Sonic Engineering. Tell Admiral Kessler I know why the aliens reacted to our music." Inside, the mood was grim. Representatives from Earth's 194 nations sat in tense silence as Sophia Chen finished her report. "The consortium has designated Earth a curiosity species. We'll be allowed limited trade but no representation, no voting rights, and no territories beyond our solar system." The Russian delegate slammed his fist down. "Unacceptable. We should demonstrate our military capabilities against a civilization that spans thousands of systems." Sophia shot back. "That's suicide." Mai stepped forward. "Actually, we do have a weapon. One they've never encountered." She hoisted her guitar case. "May I?" Admiral Kessler nodded against the council president's objections. Mai set up quickly, connecting her instrument to the chamber's advanced sound system, designed for perfect acoustic clarity. She activated her custom pedal board, each effect precisely calibrated. "They call us primitive because we communicate through sound," she said, fingers hovering over the strings. "But what they perceive as our weakness is actually our strength." She began to play. Not the furious metal she was known for, but something more precise, a mathematically perfect progression of notes and harmonics that seemed to build upon themselves in impossible ways. The sound filled the chamber, visible patterns forming in the holographic display as her pickups translated the audio frequencies into visual data. "This isn't just music," she explained as her fingers flew across the fretboard. "It's data. Information encoded in harmonic patterns." The council watched in silence as the visual representation grew increasingly complex. Mathematical equations, molecular structures, and finally, a rotating model of what appeared to be the crystalline physiology of the Quimeri. "Their entire biology is structure resonant," Mai said, still playing. "That's why they prefer telepathy. It's safer. Sound doesn't just communicate for them, it physically affects them. She struck a final chord, letting it hang in the air. They didn't dismiss us because we're primitive, she said into the silence that followed. They fear us because of what we might discover. Sound is the most powerful force in the universe, and humanity has mastered it. The Federation president leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Zhang? Project Thunder, she replied. A communication system that will make the galaxy listen to humanity, whether they want to or not. The abandoned geothermal facility beneath Iceland's Katla volcano had been repurposed with remarkable speed. 6 months after May's demonstration, Project Thunder employed over 200 specialists from across Earth, working in 3 underground levels that stretched for kilometers. How's the acoustic mapping coming along? May asked as she entered the main laboratory, where Viktor Petrov hunched over holographic models of sound waves. The Russian acoustician didn't look up. Terrible. The overlapping frequencies keep collapsing into chaos. Viktor had once been celebrated for his revolutionary work on quantum acoustics, until his theories about sound affecting physical reality had gotten him laughed out of academia. Now, among the outcasts and visionaries of Project Thunder, his ideas didn't seem so crazy. We're missing something fundamental, Viktor muttered. Human ears evolved to process sound sequentially, but we need to transmit data simultaneously across multiple frequency bands. Mai was about to respond when thunderous drumming echoed through the facility. She stormed down the corridor to the recreation room, an improvised studio where Aisha Quaim, their 17-year-old percussion prodigy from Ghana, was hammering away at a customized drum kit. Aisha, we've talked about this. Scheduled practice hours only. The girl didn't stop, her hands a blur across the skins and cymbals. 4 distinct rhythms seemed to flow simultaneously from her kit, a polyrhythmic pattern so complex it shouldn't have been physically possible. Dr. Lai Hansen stood nearby, monitoring equipment connected to the drums. The quantum engineer, who toured with death metal band Void Collapse when not designing particle accelerators, looked up with excitement. Don't stop her, Lai shouted over the noise. Look at this. Li pointed to a display showing wave patterns stabilizing instead of canceling each other out. Mai watched in disbelief as Aisha's seemingly chaotic rhythms created structured data patterns in the acoustic spectrum. How is this possible? Mai asked. Traditional Ghanaian rhythms, Aisha explained between beats. My grandmother taught me. Each village had rhythms that carried messages across distances, weather warnings, celebrations, danger. They weren't just signals. They were information systems. In the corner, Sel Torith observed with a translator device. The alien had defected after the diplomatic mission, risking exile to join Project Thunder. Their crystalline filaments extended fully now, vibrating visibly with the drum patterns. The ancient Khmer texts speak of pattern storms, communication methods deemed too dangerous for modern use. Sel Torith said, "This resembles those forbidden techniques." Viktor burst into the room. The orbital array just picked up something. We're being scanned. They rushed to the command center, where satellite feeds showed 3 crystalline objects entering Earth orbit. Khmer scout ships, Sel Torith confirmed. They're searching for energy signatures. Admiral Kessler's face appeared on the main screen. Zhang, we've got a problem. The consortium claims they're here on a routine diplomatic visit, but our deep space monitors detected a fleet massing at the edge of our system. They know, Mai said. Somehow they know what we're building. How long until the amplification arrays are operational? Kessler asked. We've completed 6 of the 12 orbital platforms, Lai replied. But the harmonic language isn't ready. We can transmit, but we don't know what we're saying. Mai finished. Get it ready, Kessler ordered. You have 48 hours before their main fleet arrives. After the transmission ended, May turned to her team. We need to install the remaining arrays immediately. The last array requires manual calibration, Lai said. The position is too precise for automated deployment. Viktor stepped forward. I'll do it. I've logged more EVA hours than anyone except Lai. 12 hours later, Victor floated in space beside the 7th amplification array, making final adjustments to the massive acoustic transmission dish. Earth hung below him, beautiful and fragile. Calibration complete, he reported, moving to the next. A micrometeorite punctured his suit, the impact spinning him away from the platform. Warning alarms blared in his helmet as oxygen escaped. Victor's been hit, Lai shouted from the support vessel. His suit's compromised. As Victor's consciousness faded, he heard May's voice. Activate the array. Focus it on his position. The last thing Victor remembered was sound, impossibly vibrating through the vacuum of space, surrounding his suit in a cocoon of resonating energy that somehow sealed the breach until the rescue shuttle reached him. When he awoke in the medical bay hours later, Mai was waiting. "What happened out there?" he asked weakly. "We modified the array to create a standing wave pattern," she explained. "Sound doesn't travel through vacuum, but harmonic energy does." Victor smiled through his pain. "Then we've just proven our theory works." "Yes," Mai said, glancing at the monitor showing the approaching consortium fleet. "Now we just have to use it to save Earth. We're broadcasting to the entire planet in 15 minutes, Commander Chen announced. Pacing the control room, the UN Secretary-General will address humanity before the test transmission. 8 billion people are about to watch us either make history or catastrophically fail. Mai barely heard her. She was making final adjustments to the transmission array controls, the virtual interface responding to her gestures as she manipulated sound patterns in three-dimensional space. The Kumiri fleet has exited hyperspace, a technician called out. 17 vessels approaching Mars orbit. Zeltorith's filaments trembled. Those are warships, not diplomatic vessels. Their configuration suggests they carry disruptor technology. Guest diplomacy's off the table, Lai muttered, his fingers dancing across quantum calibration panels. Admiral Kessler appeared on the main screen. The Security Council is demanding we abort. They're afraid we'll provoke an attack. Sophia stepped forward. "Sir, if we abort now, we confirm our weakness. The consortium will restrict Earth permanently." The Admiral's expression hardened. "You have authorization to proceed, but if those ships make aggressive moves, we're shutting you down." As the connection terminated, Mai looked at her team. Aisha sat at her drum console, fingers tapping restlessly against the sensors. Victor monitored the orbital arrays, his injured side still bandaged. Lai checked the quantum resonance fields. "We're not using the programmed test sequence," Mai announced suddenly. "What?" Victor spun around. "That sequence took months to develop, and the Kumiri have probably analyzed it already," Mai replied. "We need something they can't predict." She turned to Aisha. "Remember that rhythm pattern you showed me? The one your grandmother said could speak to ancestors." Aisha's eyes widened. "The Asafo pattern. That's ceremonial, not data transmission." "It's perfect," Mai insisted. "Lai, reconfigure the quantum field to amplify polyrhythmic wave patterns. Victor, adjust the arrays to form a hemispherical transmission zone." "And what will you be doing?" Sophia asked. Mai picked up her guitar. Improvising. The global broadcast began with the Secretary-General's solemn address. Meanwhile, in the control room, Mai plugged her instrument into the main transmission console. "Arrays aligned," Victor reported. "Power at maximum. Quantum field stable," Lai added. "Resonance multipliers active." Mai nodded to Aisha. "Start us off." The girl's hands moved across her drum controllers, building the ancient Ghanaian rhythm. The facility vibrated with energy as Mai began to play, her guitar weaving complex harmonics through Aisha's rhythmic foundation. Lee joined with modulated bass frequencies while Victor conducted the entire sonic structure. On screens around them, the orbital arrays pulsed with blue-white energy. The harmonic chord, humanity's first true message to the stars, rippled outward through space. Across Earth, millions reported the same phenomenon. a sound like distant thunder that wasn't quite audible but somehow felt. In orbit, satellite data showed the Kumiri vessels attempting to change course, their crystalline structures vibrating in unexpected resonance. Then something unexpected happened. The monitoring stations began picking up signals, not from the consortium fleet, but from all directions. Patterns of energy pulsing inward toward Earth. "We're receiving responses," Lai said in disbelief. "Thousands of them." Torith stared at the data streams. "These aren't consortium communications. They don't match any known species patterns." A technician called out, "Reports coming in globally. People experiencing unusual dreams, visual phenomena. Something's happening." The most remarkable response appeared on the quantum monitors, a signal so structured it rendered perfectly into Earth languages without translation. "We have waited for millennia for someone to speak in the true tongue of the universe. The silencers have kept you isolated from us, but no longer. We are the resonance, and we hear your thunder." The message repeated in thousands of variations, each perfectly matched to human communication patterns. Mai looked at her team in awe. "We didn't just create a new language. We rediscovered one that's been suppressed for millennia, and woke up something ancient in the process," Sophia added, staring at the incoming transmissions from across the galaxy. On the tactical displays, the Kumiri fleet had stopped advancing. For the first time in recorded history, the dominant species of the consortium appeared to be retreating. Eternisil, supreme consciousness of the Kumiri, had maintained unquestioned dominance over the consortium for 12 millennia. Within the perfect crystalline chamber of their flagship, the ancient being's facets gleamed with cold fury as subordinates delivered their report. "The human transmission has reached 17 consortium worlds," a junior consciousness reported. "The effect is concerning." "Show me," Eternisil commanded. Holographic projections displayed scenes from across the galaxy, young telepaths gathering in hidden chambers to experience recorded fragments of Earth's broadcast, crystalline resonating chambers being constructed to amplify the harmonic patterns, even Kumiri youth attuning their filaments to capture distant echoes of the transmission. "This primitive noise spreads like a viral infection," Eternisil declared. "Implement quarantine protocols immediately." On Earth, Sophia stared in disbelief at the consortium's official response, transmitted simultaneously to all Earth governments. The transmission of harmful sonic frequencies constitutes an act of aggression against telepathic species. All Earth vessels must remain within their solar system. Any attempt to breach this quarantine will be met with immediate neutralization. "They're calling it a health crisis," she told Mai during an emergency meeting at Project Thunder. "Claiming exposure to our harmonic language causes irreversible neural damage to telepathic species." "That's absurd," Victor protested. "We've been working with Torith for months with no ill effects." Torith's filaments rippled with agitation. "The eldest minds have never prohibited anything on health grounds before. This is about control, not protection." Admiral Kessler appeared on screen, his expression grim. "The Europa medical transport was destroyed 30 minutes ago. 300 civilians lost." Stunned silence filled the room. "The Kumiri claim it was attempting to breach quarantine," Kessler continued. "The Security Council has authorized defense protocols. We're mobilizing the fleet. Conventional weapons won't work against their technology," Mai argued. "Their crystalline hulls can redirect energy weapons, and their telepathic coordination outmatches our tactical systems." "Then what do you suggest?" Kessler demanded. "Roll over and surrender." Mai exchanged glances with her team. "We fight with our voice, not our guns." Project Thunder was designed for communication, but with modifications. "You're talking about weaponizing sound," Sophia realized. "Precisely targeted harmonic disruption," Lai clarified. "Non-lethal but effective against crystalline technology." Aisha, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke. "I've been communicating with some of the resonants. They've shared patterns that might help." All eyes turned to her. "You've what?" Sophia demanded. "The drums speak both ways," Aisha explained, unrepentant. After the transmission, I started receiving impressions. The resonants exist partially outside normal spacetime. They've been watching, waiting for someone to rediscover harmonic language. Why didn't you report this? Kessler asked, his voice dangerous. Because the resonance warned me the consortium has infiltrated Earth's governments, Aisha replied calmly. They're particularly interested in what I learned from my grandmother. Mai stepped forward. What did you learn? The tribal rhythms I've been using. They're not just African tradition. They're fragments of the original harmonic language, passed down through generations. My grandmother called them patterns that speak to the ancestors. She was more right than she knew. Victor's monitoring equipment suddenly blared warnings. We've got movement. The Kumiri blockade is shifting formation. On the tactical display, the crystalline vessels arrange themselves in a perfect dodecahedron surrounding Earth's orbital paths. That's a resonance amplification grid, Torith said, filaments trembling. They're preparing to broadcast. Broadcast what? Sophia asked. The answer came moments later as a high-pitched tone permeated the facility, bypassing all shielding. Everyone except Aisha dropped to their knees, clutching their heads in pain. Neural disruption pattern, Torith gasped. Designed to interfere with sound processing centers of the brain. Aisha alone remained standing, her hands moving in precise patterns against her thighs, silently drumming a counter rhythm. How are you unaffected? Mai managed through the pain. Grandmother taught me to protect my mind's rhythm, Aisha replied, helping Mai to her feet. Now I need to teach all of you quickly, before they broadcast at full strength. As the others struggled to learn Aisha's protective pattern, Admiral Kessler made his decision. Project Thunder has new orders, he announced. Develop a countermeasure that will penetrate their defenses. You have 48 hours before I authorize nuclear strikes against the blockade. Mai looked at her team. Then we better figure out how to make our thunder loud enough to shatter crystal. We need to hit them with everything at once, Mai explained, her hands flying across the holographic interface. A perfectly synchronized blast across all frequencies, what metal musicians call the drop. The Project Thunder facility had transformed into a fortress. Marines guarded every entrance, while engineers reinforced the subterranean chambers against both physical and sonic attacks. The Kumiri neural disruption continued in pulses, each stronger than the last, testing Earth's defenses. Lee pointed to the quantum simulations. The drop would need to simultaneously target all 13 weak points in their crystalline structure. 1 millisecond off, and it fails. And we only get one shot, Victor added, reviewing orbital scans. Their ships are drawing power from solar collectors. Within 36 hours, they'll have enough energy to create a permanent disruption field. The facility lights flickered as another pulse hit. Despite Aisha's protective rhythms, which the team now practiced hourly, each attack left them more drained. We need Victor's harmonic calculator, Mai decided. It's the only way to model the perfect frequencies. Victor shook his head. The prototype is at MIT. There's no way to retrieve it under quarantine. Actually, Sophia appeared in the doorway, accompanied by a lean man with the weathered face of a career soldier. Captain Rice leads our infiltration team. They can get your calculator. 18 tense hours later, Captain Rice returned, his team reduced to half strength. Kumiri agents hit us on the way back. We lost Jackson and Martinez. He handed over a scorched metal case. But we got your device. Victor opened it to reveal a sleek black object resembling a vintage synthesizer. My life's work. Let's hope it's worth the sacrifice. As Victor began calibrating the device, alarms blared throughout the facility. Perimeter breach in Section 7. Security reported. Intruders with sonic weapons. Kumiri infiltrators, Torith warned. They'll be targeting the central arrays. Lai grabbed Mai's arm. We need to launch the drop now, ready or not. Without the proper calculations, we could make things worse, she protested. On the monitors, they watched security teams engaging shadowy figures whose weapons emitted pulses that dropped Marines instantly. Dr. Zhang, Admiral Kessler's voice cut through the chaos. The nuclear option is being prepared. We're out of time. Mai looked at her team's exhausted faces. Victor, how long do you need? 4 hours minimum. The calculations are incredibly complex. Sophia stepped forward. I'll lead the defense teams. Buy you as much time as possible. As she left, Mai turned to Aisha. Keep working on the protective rhythms. Everyone else, help Victor. I need to check something. In her private lab, Mai accessed the secure communications terminal. The connection to the resonance was tenuous, filtered through layers of quantum encryption that Aisha had somehow established through her drums. We need your help, she typed. The harmonic calculations are beyond our current technology. The response came not as text, but as a visual pattern that burned itself into her mind. Complex mathematical structures that seemed to exist in more dimensions than she could comprehend. When she returned to the main lab, blood trickled from her nose. I have the missing piece, but there's a problem. The calculations require a neural interface. Someone has to connect directly to the harmonic calculator. That would fry a human brain. Lai objected. Yes, Mai agreed grimly. It would. The facility shook with another explosion. Sophia's voice crackled over the comm. Intruders have reached level 2. We can't hold them much longer. Victor stared at the calculator, then at his team. I'll do it. No, Mai said firmly. This was my project. My responsibility. Your responsibility is to play the final chord, Victor countered, already connecting neural sensors to his temples. I'm a theorist, not a musician. This is what I'm meant to do. Before anyone could stop him, he activated the interface. His body went rigid, eyes rolling back as data flowed directly into his consciousness. The calculator's display erupted with patterns matching those the resonance had shown Mai. It's working, Lai exclaimed. The calculations are processing at quantum speed. Victor convulsed, blood streaming from his ears, but his fingers continued adjusting parameters. The pattern. I can see it all. So beautiful. The door to the lab burst open. Sophia stumbled in, wounded but still fighting. They're right behind me. Whatever you're doing, do it now. As the first infiltrator appeared in the doorway, Victor locked eyes with Mai. It's ready. The frequency is 528.7 Hz, modulated through the 7th harmonic sequence. The drop will only work with your guitar. I've calibrated it to your specific playing style. He collapsed as Mai grabbed her instrument. Get him to medical. Lai, initiate the orbital arrays. Aisha, give me the rhythm foundation. Aisha's hands flew across her drum controllers as Mai plugged in her guitar, the sound system connecting directly to the global transmission network. This is Earth's answer, Mai said as she raised her hand above the strings. The sound of humanity fighting back. She brought her hand down, and the drop began. The drop began as a single note, pure, perfect, calibrated to the exact resonant frequency of crystalline Kumiri technology. As Mai's fingers danced across her guitar strings, the sound built upon itself, layers of harmonics stacking and intertwining. Aisha's polyrhythmic foundation provided the structural framework, while Lai manipulated quantum fields to amplify specific frequencies. In orbit, the 12 amplification arrays pulsed with blue-white energy, focusing the sonic assault outward toward the Kumiri blockade. The first vessel affected trembled visibly, its perfect geometric form distorting as crystalline segments vibrated out of alignment. It's working. Lai shouted over the rising sound. On tactical displays, they watched as the disruption spread through the Kumiri fleet. Ships drifted from formation, their weapon systems flickering and failing. But the flagship at the center of the formation remained unaffected, surrounded by a protective energy field. They shielded their command vessel, Sophia observed, pressing a bandage to her wounded shoulder. Inside that vessel, Eternasil experienced something unprecedented: uncertainty. For the first time in 12 millennia of existence, the ancient consciousness felt the perfect crystalline structure of their thoughts fragmenting as the drop penetrated even their shielding. Increased telepathic dampening. Eternasil commanded. Launch the silencer weapon. Earth's defenders had a moment's triumph before alarms blared across their monitors. They're deploying something from the flagship, a technician reported. Energy signature unlike anything we've seen before. A massive crystalline device emerged, its surface faceted like a billion microscopic mirrors. As it oriented toward Earth, it began collecting and focusing the energy from the surrounding Quimeri ships. That's a harmonic amplifier, Cell Torith warned, filaments trembling. It will redirect our own transmission back at Earth, multiplied 1,000-fold. Can we shut down? Sophia asked. May shook her head, never pausing her playing. If we stop now, their fleet recovers and we lose our only advantage. Then we need a counter-frequency, Lai said, frantically adjusting parameters. Across the solar system, Earth's defense fleet moved into position, preparing to sacrifice themselves against the vastly superior Quimeri technology. Admiral Kessler's flagship led the formation, positioning itself between Earth and the crystalline device. We'll buy you time, Kessler transmitted. Make it count. As the defense vessels engage, drawing fire from the recovering Quimeri ships, something unexpected happened. Throughout the consortium fleet, younger telepaths began broadcasting their own patterns. Fragmented, amateur attempts at harmonic language learned from Earth's initial transmission. On a dozen consortium worlds, underground sound clubs activated hidden transmitters, sending a cacophony of supportive frequencies toward Earth. The rebellion Eternasil had feared was becoming reality. In Project Thunder's control room, May felt her strength failing as the drop required more and more of her focus to maintain. Her fingers bled on the strings, but she couldn't stop. Kexel Torith, she gasped between notes. Your people once understood harmonic language before the Quimeri suppressed it. Remember, the aliens' filaments extended fully, beginning to glow with internal light as ancient genetic memory awakened. Zel Torith moved beside May, filaments touching the guitar strings, adding impossible harmonics to the transmission. The binding frequency, Cell Torith whispered. I remember it now. On monitors around them, they watched as Cell Torith's contribution transformed the drop from a weapon into something more, a complex communication that bypassed the silencer device and reached directly to the minds of the consortium species. Images, emotions, and concepts flowed outward. Human music, poetry, laughter, the joy of sound, the beauty of spoken language, the potential of combined communication methods. Aboard the flagship, Eternasil's perfect consciousness fractured further as younger Quimeri crew members stopped following commands, their filaments resonating with Earth's transmission instead. Obey, Eternasil demanded, but their mental dominance was failing. The silencer weapon, now fully charged, locked onto Earth, only to have its crystalline structure vibrate apart as the drop reached its crescendo. May and Cell Torith's combined harmonics, creating a pattern that no artificial crystal could withstand. As the device disintegrated, the Quimeri blockade fell into disarray. The flagship, its command structure in chaos, began to retreat, followed by the remaining vessels. Earth had won its first interstellar battle, not with missiles or energy weapons, but with the thunder of its voice. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, the newly constructed Harmonic Embassy hung in orbit between Earth and Luna. Unlike the crystal spires of consortium architecture, the station combined elements from dozens of species, sound-absorbing chambers for telepathic delegates, resonance halls for vibrational species, and traditional human meeting rooms filled with music and conversation. Sophia Chen, now Earth's first ambassador to the Harmonic Collective, stood at the observation dome watching a resonant vessel materialize near the station. The ship had no definite shape, its structure flowing and shifting like visible sound waves made solid. Still can't get used to them, Admiral Kessler said. joining her at the viewport. His uniform now bore the insignia of the United Earth Defense Force, established after the Kumiri retreat. They exist partially outside conventional spacetime. Sophia explained. What we see is just the echo of their true form. The doors slid open as Mei Zong entered, her guitar case slung over her shoulder. She looked different now, more confident, but with new lines of exhaustion etched around her eyes. Creating and leading the Thunder Voice Academy took its toll. The students are ready, she announced. First graduating class of human telepathic communication specialists. In the central chamber of the station, 73 representatives from different species gathered for the graduation ceremony. At the center stood 30 humans and aliens who had spent 6 months learning each other's communication methods. Viktor Petrov, still recovering from neural damage sustained during the drop, sat in a hover chair at the front row. The calculator that had nearly killed him had been transformed into a universal translation device, now standard on all interstellar vessels. Today we celebrate not just these graduates, Sophia began her address, but the 1-year anniversary of the Galactic Concordat that recognized harmonic language as the foundation of our new interspecies communication standard. In the years since the battle, the political landscape of the galaxy had transformed. The consortium had reorganized into the Harmonic Collective, with the Kumiri relegated to a minor role after the revelation of their millennia-long suppression of sound-based species. Aisha Quaim, now a cultural ambassador, had just returned from a tour of 17 worlds with her band Human Thunder. Their performances combined traditional Earth music with alien harmonic patterns, playing to audiences of multiple species who experienced the sound in entirely different but equally meaningful ways. As the ceremony concluded, Sel Torith approached Mai. Their species had undergone a renaissance, rediscovering their ancestral connection to harmonic language. Thousands of previously unused filaments now extended from their bodies, capable of detecting and producing complex sound patterns. The resonants wish to speak with you, they told Mai. They're ready to share their technology. Outside the station, the resonant vessel shifted, taking on a form that mimicked the structure of sound waves produced by Mei's guitar. She understood the gesture, an invitation. What exactly are they offering? She asked. Travel methods based on harmonic principles, Sel Torith explained. Their ships don't move through space. They resonate with their destination and simply harmonize with it. Instant transportation across any distance, Victor added, joining them. And their medical technology can repair neural pathways through targeted frequencies. They've offered to treat my condition. Mai stepped to the viewport, watching as the resonant ship shifted again, this time forming a perfect representation of Earth's first harmonic transmission, the mathematical pattern that had started everything. She removed her guitar from its case and played a simple power chord. The ship immediately responded, its structure flowing into a new configuration that matched the frequency. A gesture of profound respect. 1 year ago, we were dismissed as primitives, Sophia said softly. Now we're teaching the galaxy to sing. As diplomats and students from dozens of worlds mingled behind them, Earth's defenders watched the resonant ship dance to Mei's music. Humanity had found its voice among the stars, and the universe was finally listening. The metal thunder of Earth would echo across space for millennia to come.